of August 1st through August 31st, no support for African business.
At this point, shut the African braiding shops down, because it's been 2 days. I done seen 5 videos, 5 different African braiding shops, 5 different African braiding shops. You hear me? And 5 different arguments, 5 different fights, and 5 different African braiding shops. So what are they telling you? They gotta go. Shut them down.
Hey y'all, so I'm hearing that they're boycotting all African businesses starting August 1st up until 2026. But my only question is, why August 1st and why till 2026? Like, start right now and do it for life.
I'm making this video because I wanted to support Shaya's Shelf, who is promoting a protest for August 1st. Complete blackout on African braiding shops, restaurants, and stores, right? I'm absolutely here for this. I'm showing my support because I do this in my everyday life. I do not shop with the Africans. Ain't no African ever braided my hair, put their hands in my head, or none of that, right? I don't do the restaurants. I stopped like years ago. I do not shop with their stores. If I walk into a store and I accidentally realize, oh, not for me, right? So she's encouraging that we do an August 1st protest all through the month of August. I think it should continue throughout for the rest of the year. Right? Let them really feel the heat, okay? Because they are confused about who they are, who we are, and what this is all about, right? They're so busy licking boots, they don't seem to want to give us our respect. They need a wake-up call, right? Because clearly they don't understand that the large majority of why you are even in the space that you're in is because of us, and that our dollars are the ones that pay your bills. Because we black them out. I want to see how many white people finna support y'all, right? I want to see how many of y'all businesses is really going to be able to stay afloat month after month of black people not supporting you, right? Like, let's really be about it. So in support of Shaya's Shelf, I am even pushing past August, but it starts August 1st, okay? Complete, total blackout on Africans. Period. Okay? Let them know what time it is.
I just feel like if we're gonna boycott, let's boycott. Stop wearing Nigerian prom dresses done by Nigerians. Stop going to Morocco. Stop getting your henna done. Stop wearing waist beads. Stop wearing Fulani braids. Stop wearing Senegalese braids. Stop wearing head wraps. Stop buying shea butter. Stop listening to Afrobeats and Amapiano. Stop going to Dirty December. Stop eating jollof rice. Who said that? I said it. And the crazy thing is, y'all don't be having half of this energy for Indians, Koreans, Vietnamese, to the white man. And the gag is, we're all still black. We're black as hell at the end of the day. And if you don't want to be called African American, tell the white man to take off African American off the paper and put American.
Oh, can you say that again?
Black American stylists. Do you have any Black American stylists there?
Yes.
That I can get my hair braided?
Yes, I do. But
okay.
You won't be uncomfortable being around others that are not Black American stylists?
I mean,
you're fine.
I only allow Black Americans to touch my hair. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, unfortunately, ma'am, this just may not be the shop for you because we don't discriminate like that. So yeah.
Well, if I want a white person to touch my hair, I go to a white shop.
Yeah, well, this is
no, that's not discrimination, please. That's a person of choice.
Yeah, so I just wouldn't go to an African braiding shop then.
You don't hire Black Americans there.
Yeah, but we don't discriminate. Thank you though for calling. We appreciate you.
Okay, I just want to know, honey. Thank you very much.
They're already starting. Are you laughing or crying?
Oh my God, no, I'm laughing. Is she serious?
Imagine boycotting an African-owned business, then going to go get braids that's called Fulani braids. Or Senegalese twist, or actively using shea butter and black soap. I swear we're losing the plot, yo. We're losing the plot.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Profess. If you're new, kindly consider subscribing, hit that like button and consider joining us to be part of this growing community, of educational and beautiful videos. All right, today's episode is really sad and heartbreaking, especially for me and for anybody of African descent, because really I don't understand why black folks cannot seem to unite and actually help each other gain respect in this modern world. Because there is no way in your family, if you keep on fighting, keep on disrespecting each other, keep on throwing, abusive words at each other in front of outsiders, and you're gonna expect them to give you respect and hold you highly. No, the opinion of you is gonna be according to the image that is portrayed by you and your family. And this is sadly what is happening in the black community, because black Americans are claiming that they're sick and tired of being used, they're sick and tired of being abused by other people of ethnic groups, especially African immigrants in the United States. And they're calling for a boycott on African businesses as of 1st August, especially African braiding salons. But how did we get here and why are we here? I want to give you some historical context of how we have come this far and why we keep on fighting and we seem not to get anywhere, and how, the colonial system of divide and conquer keeps on being our adversary. In historical context, black Americans are descendants of enslaved Africans who were forcibly taken during the transatlantic slave trade in 1619 to the 1800s. Now, I have to put into context that not all black people were actually taken from Africa. We have some, black folks who actually made it to the Americas before Christopher Columbus. And that's an episode for another day. Now, over generations, black Americans were stripped of their language, they were stripped of their culture, tribal identity, and ancestral lineage, leaving a legacy of trauma, disconnection, and erasure. In contrast, African immigrants arrive in the US with strong cultural identities and ethnic pride. In example, Nigerians, Ghanaian, Ethiopians, they all come with pride and ethnic identity, with their languages and their traditions still intact. Now, I want to say that this actually creates resentment and confusion on both sides. How does it happen? Because black Americans may feel abandoned by Africans who actually didn't come back for them, or who they claim actually sold them to the slave masters. And some Africans may view black Americans as culturally lost or disconnected, which can come off as condescending. Now, we have to understand that colonialism and white supremacy taught us to hate each other. Both groups were shaped with white colonial narratives, that told them lies about each other. Here in Africa, we were often taught, through colonial educational systems that African Americans were lazy, violent, and, immoral. Black Americans, on the other hand, were shown images of Africa as being poor, primitive, or chaotic, reinforcing the negative stereotypes. Now, we have to understand that these racist ideas didn't come from us. They were fed to us to prevent a global black unity. Now, immigration and class differences between people of African descent is actually also contributing to this factor. Most African immigrants arrive in the US through educational professional visa. They tend to be more middle class or highly educated compared to average black Americans. Now, I'm not saying that black Americans are not educated. No, not really. I'm just saying that the average black American, because you'll find that black Americans will have a majority while the African immigrants will have a minority, and the only minority of African immigrants that actually makes it to the United States they make it through educational and professional visa. That's why their average will actually tend to be more educated than the average of the Black Americans. That is due to number, but doesn't mean that there is more African immigrants who are educated than Black Americans. It's just a construct of numbers and averages. This can lead to elitism, a sense of superiority among African immigrants who may not understand the systemic barriers that Black America face. Now, this leads to elitism or a sense of superiority among African immigrants who may not understand the systemic barriers that Black Americans actually face. Things like redlining, mass incarcerations, and intergenerational poverty. These things are a reality for Black Americans, and African immigrants coming from the continent may not actually seem to understand that, and it might actually take them years and years to even understand a fraction of these realities, because they never actually had to go through such trauma in their lives. On the flip side, Black Americans may feel like outsiders in their own skin, being judged by people who've never actually experienced American anti-Black racism firsthand. Now, how did this actually get to the point where Black Americans are boycotting African businesses, especially African braiding salons? In everyday life in the United States, cultural crashes show up in Black-owned businesses, especially where African immigrants serve Black Americans, customers in braiding salons, restaurants, and corner stores. Complaints about poor customer service, language barriers, pricing issues, and lack of mutual respect have been boiling over the years, because you'll find that a lot of Africans will tend, to abuse Black Americans using their native languages, and they might actually seem to think that Black Americans won't actually hear what they're saying. They might not actually hear what you're saying, but they will notice. There is no way someone can insult you, even in a language that you do not understand, and you fail to get the sense of you being abused. Social media platforms actually amplifies those frustrations, and often turning isolated bad experience into wider anti-African sentiments. But underneath it all is a shared, feeling of pain, of being disrespected by each other or the other. Now, this is the context of today's episode. Let me know in the comments what you think about today, whether you are a Black American or an African immigrant, or you are just, a Black person from somewhere else, like in the Caribbean or in Europe. Let me know about this. Why do you think that Black people cannot seem to unite? Let me know in the comments. Let's take a look at the videos that I have compiled for you. I'll be back with more commentary after this.
Yes, finally, y'all, we are boycotting African braiding shops. Like, I'm sick of these Africans taking my money, especially the ones that can do boho knotless braids down your back for under $300. Oh, especially the ones where hair is included. Like, if y'all know any of those braiding shops, like, please let me know, specifically in the Nashville area, so I can be the first to boycott, because I'm sick of thinking about that. I'm just sick and tired of them, especially when they can do hair under 5 hours because multiple ladies are working on your hair at the same time. Like, I wanted to sit on the chair for longer. Like, I'm just mad thinking about it, especially the ones that wash your hair before the appointment. Like, I'm just getting mad thinking about it. So like let me know, like, and the rates and like where they're at, and like a number to like call them, like to let them know that I'm boycotting, because like we can't stand for this. And like, let me know their availability for braiding next week, because like I got a trip coming up, and like, I want to boycott before I go. So like, just let me know.
I didn't pay attention yesterday because it was a lot going on. So the African braid shops are calling themselves boycotting FBA women, or whoever, men, whatever, who come to their shop to get their hair done. Y'all gonna learn. Y'all gonna fucking learn. I've been braiding my own hair probably for the past 4 years now, but every month I was in an African shop, and then we had, this is what, even when Biden was still president, then we had this conversation where they was trying to tell me everybody was from Africa, and I was like, not me, boo, I'm native. And they was like, And then my hair started getting tighter than usual. I never had an issue with losing my edges because all you gotta do is keep some oil on them when your hair is tight. But anywho, my son's younger sister is 11 years old. She can braid hair. My mother been braiding my hair and putting beads on it since the 80s. I never went to an African braid shop until I turned 24. And then, you know, I will probably go once a year because my hair is really thick and I didn't like all of them braids because it was thick and heavy and I knew it was pulling my hair out. But to you Africans who call yourselves boycotting the Akatas, finna make sure y'all go broke. Because we've been braiding hair way before y'all got over here and called it African braiding. Go look at them old R. Kelly videos and the Marion B2K them videos. It wasn't no Africans sitting on the porch braiding their hair. Go look at them old Snoop Dogg videos. It wasn't no Africans sitting on the porch braiding their hair. We've been braiding hair for a long time. If y'all so cold, Africans, why can't y'all braid names and letters and stars and stripes in people's hair like FBA been doing since Allen Iverson was playing basketball, since Jordan was playing basketball? Y'all finna lose so much money, and I'm so here for it. I don't know why the fuck y'all think y'all can make it without us. Y'all wouldn't even be here without us. If we didn't fight for civil rights, you wouldn't be here. But I can't wait to see how much money y'all gonna lose by calling yourself boycotting FBA. This shit finna be hilarious. I hope all you bitches go broke because that's what y'all deserve. Y'all wanna align with the Mayo-nated people and go against the Akatas. The Akatas finna watch y'all fall. It's finna be lovely. Keep doing what you're doing, boo, because our money's staying with us and we can braid hair way better than y'all can. We be doing it for years, and there's no way in East Fuck I could go to a braid shop and get every one of my braids a different type of color. Y'all wouldn't even be able to do that. Y'all will probably be complaining. So I ain't gotta pay nobody nothing and do my own hair. But y'all Miller fillers finna lose a whole bunch of money calling yourselves boycotting the Akatas. Akatas got long money. Watch us Akatas show y'all.
So I'm hearing that August 1st, African Americans are going to be boycotting African businesses. And, you know, I hear they don't want to be called African Americans, they want to be called Black Americans. And honestly, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Like, what kind of self-hate is this? That we have to now, I mean, I know this war has been brewing for a long time between African Americans and Africans who are in America. And it's really ridiculous. And first of all, this is also the real definition of racism, because it's discrimination against the people. So basically what the white people are doing to you is what you guys are doing to us as Africans. So you want to boycott all African businesses just because somebody had a bad experience. I mean, you guys are not boycotting Lululemon. You guys are not boycotting Target. You guys are not boycotting all those businesses that you go to and they make you feel like you're a criminal. They follow you around because they think you'll steal. You're not boycotting those businesses. No, you're not. But you're going to boycott African businesses just because you had a bad experience. This is ridiculous. I mean, when you talk about the devil at work, this is the devil. This is the devil trying to come in, because at the end of the day, well, you look at me, I am Kenyan American. I am a Kenyan who has since become an American citizen. So I'm Kenyan American, but you can't even tell, you can't differentiate me from an African American or a Black American until I open my mouth and you actually hear that I have an accent. Why are we fighting against each other? Why are we united? Why are you fighting us? I mean, this is ridiculous. If the enemy is at work, the enemy comes in to steal, kill, and destroy. And that is what is happening. Like really ridiculous. I'm not hearing of, Chinese Americans boycotting Chinese businesses or Italian Americans boycotting Italian businesses. Why is it that African Americans want to boycott African businesses? And also the fact is, you guys are not even, why don't you go ahead and start today? Because African businesses are mostly supported by us Africans. And that's the truth. You guys, eat elsewhere, shop elsewhere, do business elsewhere. Go ahead and do that. I don't think it's really going to affect African businesses. But the fact that this is happening in 2025, this is sad. Very sad. The self-hate.
Black America, do not boycott your own people. I'm saying that because recently I saw a video from a sister complaining about services that she received from an African hairdresser, and she laid out her grievances on why Black America should do an economic blackout on all Africans and their services on August the 1st. And when I saw her say this, I felt embarrassed by this. Africans, Black people that live outside of the United States, they are not our enemy. They're not our oppressor. And I need for my brothers and sisters here in America, my fellow Black Americans, I need you to understand why we boycott. It isn't because we don't like services that we got from somebody. We're boycotting companies that do wrong by Black people. That's what we're doing. We boycott companies that do wrong by women. We boycott companies that do environmental damage, what's referred to as environmental racism. Companies that destroy environments where Black people stay. That's who we boycott. We don't put that energy on our own people. You put that energy on the people who are oppressing you, on the people who don't care about you, not your own people. I need my fellow Black Americans to wake up out of their colonized tribal mind states. Wake up. You're being manipulated by forces that you can't see. They're trying to get you to buy into not just anti-immigration, but specifically to oppose Black people from other countries. That's what they're trying to get you to do, Black America. I need you to be smarter than that. I need you to pay attention. Open your eyes. Pay attention to what's going on. Don't let them use you with this anti-immigrant ridiculousness. Black America, stand down on the economic boycott request for boycotting Africans in the United States. Stand down from that ridiculousness. It's counter-revolutionary. It's counterproductive. It does not benefit Black Americans or Black people. We have to stop going against ourselves.
If you're not Black, just keep scrolling. This video is for my African Americans and African brothers and sisters. Specifically for us, I am so confused. Why am I seeing that on August 1st, African Americans or a specific African American has forged a protest against African businesses, from African restaurants, African braiding salons, anything that is African owned, they have started a campaign that on August 1st, we as Black Americans will be boycotting these businesses. What the fuck is wrong with us? What is wrong with us just as a people, as Black Americans, African Americans? What the fuck is wrong with us that it makes sense to boycott African businesses because you may have had a bad experience with a African business? You've also had a bad experience with an Asian business. You've had a bad experience with a white business. You've had a bad experience with an Hispanic business, and so on and so forth. Where's the energy for those businesses that continuously come into our communities and disrespect us? But you want to start a war, a beef, continue a beef with Africans? Like, make it make sense. We are all one. Sure, we can distinguish ourselves as African American or African, but they look at us all the same. They don't look at an African and say, oh, you're African. They don't look at me as an African American and say, oh, she's an African American. No, she's a nigga. They all the same. So what sense does it make that we are boycotting our own people? Sometimes we can really be our own worst enemy. They don't even need to do anything to divide us. There's nothing more that they need to do. We can complete the mission ourselves. The self-hate, because that's what it is. It's self-hate. There is no way. I don't even know how this thing even got legs. How did this even get legs? You got people agreeing with it, like, yeah, when I go into the hair braiding shop, that's why Black women ain't got edges, and that's why Black women got bald spots or losing hair because they braid so tight. What? That's the reason why you're boycotting them? Because you made a choice to let somebody braid your hair a certain way and you didn't get the desired results? So that's justification to boycott an entire community of people? Like, y'all dumb. I say it all the time to my friends and family. The majority of people are fucking stupid. And I mean that with my whole entire chest. Y'all are some dumb, ignorant ass people. Because this don't make no goddamn sense. How you boycott your own people when you got people, other races, other communities that have done far worse to us than we do to each other? But you want to sit here and boycott your own people? I don't even have no more words because I'm really going to go off and get to cursing on here, and I don't need to be doing all that. Y'all need to grow up and do better. Matter of fact, let's make August 1st, you do go to an African business. If there's an African beauty supply, if there's an African, I don't know, corner store, whatever kind of business it is out there that an African may have, go ahead and make sure y'all frequent it on August 1st. Let's counteract this ignorance because this is fucking stupid. So goddamn dumb.
All right, everybody, there you have it. Actually, I really thought that we were making progress as, Black community in, building bridges between the African continent and Black folks in the diaspora, especially Black Americans or African Americans, Black folks in the Caribbean, Black folks in the UK or in other places of Europe, extending also Black folks in Australia, Asia. All continents of this world actually have Black folks as the origin of people in those continents. Now, to see actually Black folks in the United States, especially Black Americans and African immigrants, fighting over disrespect, pricing, arguments and misconceptions that were brought by people who actually want to divide and conquer us since the 1600s is really heartbreaking. It's really sad to see that Black folks and Black communities are giving in to these divide and conquer mentality. What's really happening? What's the context of this boycott that Black Americans are calling for on August 1st against African businesses, especially African braiding salons? Now, the story is a growing number of Black women on social media like TikTok are calling for a boycott on African braiding salons, with the movement gaining traction under the hashtag Boycott African Braiders. The frustration is rooted in allegations of poor service, disrespect, price gouging, and overall lack of cultural sensitivity from some African-owned salons. One viral creator actually goes on to say that, "I'm tired of being disrespected when I'm paying hundreds of dollars and I get treated like I'm beneath them." Well, I just want to say that no group is right and no group is wrong, because they all have their issues, they all have their concerns. Nobody is perfect. And this whole misunderstanding is brought to us by the trauma of our past differences. Now, what is our past differences? We on the African continent have been oppressed by, colonial masters, while, Black Americans in the United States have been oppressed by, Caucasian people and white masters into slavery. Now, this is what's causing all this black on black conflict, which is not new but engineered, because divisions between African Americans and African immigrants have deep colonial and systemic roots. Both groups have been pitched against each other, by white dominant societies. Africans may be told that Black Americans are lazy and they are criminals, while Black Americans actually may be told that Africans are arrogant, tribal, primitive and poor, and they don't like them. This is the divide and conquer tool of white supremacy. The less united we are, the less power we have, and the less bargaining power we have on the global stage, the less also respect we gain from other communities, because there is no way people are going to respect your family if you keep on fighting with each other in the family, keep on accusing with each other, keep on throwing words of disrespect against each other, and then you expect outsiders to actually treat you differently. They will not. They will actually hold you accountable to your own behavior. This is exactly what happens on the global stage. Black folks have no bargaining power. Black folks have no respect from other communities. I'll give you the example of the Asian community, because these people actually have fought hard with blood and sweat to gain respect and bargaining power on the global stage. Take Arabs, for instance, in Saudi Arabia, in Dubai, in Qatar. These people have also fought hard to actually gain respect and bargaining power on the global stage. How do they do this? They all do it by first standing united as one voice. They all actually make sure that they cannot be divided and conquered by that group that likes to conquer people by dividing them. Why is it that Black folks are the only group of communities that seem to be not united, seem to never find a way of actually uniting their power? As much as Black Americans are calling for unity to boycott African businesses and African braiding salons, in unison, why can't we use that unity between all groups of Black folks on the global stage? Black people in the Caribbean, Black Americans in the United States, Black folks on the African continent, and all other places where we find a Black person. Why can't we use that unified one voice to actually gain respect on the global stage and gain bargaining power on the global stage? This is not a problem in just the United States between African immigrants and Black Americans. It's also happening happening right on the motherland in the African continent, you'll find that Africans actually still go by the rules and the borders that were given to them by colonial masters. It is very hard for an African to actually travel from, a country like Kenya to Nigeria, but it is very easy for a white man with a British passport to actually, travel within Africa than Africans themselves. It is very hard that even, the richest man on the African continent, Mr. Aliko Dangote, he's also the richest black person alive, in unison or in collection. He actually also has expressed his frustration, getting visas to travel within Africa. He actually gets visas very easily to travel outside Africa than he does to travel in his own continent. This shows that black folks are still struggling with lines of divisions that were brought by colonial masters, that were brought by people who do not understand our culture, that were brought by people who only wanted to divide us so that we will never actually gain any kind of unison power on the global stage. And this is basically what's eating up, the black community, and what we are seeing that is being extended back in the United States. Because as much as black Americans actually have a right to choose where to spend their dollars, it actually shows something very different. Why can't you actually boycott the particular, braiding salon that disrespected you? Why, generalize among Africans? I know nobody is perfect. I cannot generalize among black Americans with the stereotypes that we are shown of black Americans here on the African continent, because not all black Americans are like that. Why do you want to generalize, that African people or African immigrants are all like that? Because a lot of black Americans are complaining that Africans don't like them. They're complaining that Africans actually sold them during the transatlantic, slave trade. But I want to ask you a question, and I want us to reason together. How did a people that was, under colonial rule and oppression on the African continent be able to bargain and profit from its own people, selling its own people to the people that were oppressing them? It doesn't make sense. What black Americans actually went through in the United States, Africans or black folks on the African continent also went through that under a different name called the colonial era. A lot of atrocities, a lot of oppression actually were done to, Africans. And the same thing that is actually happening, with black Americans facing systemic racism that do not actually favor them is also happening in another form on the African continent, because African continent also face, systemic racism on a global stage. You might face it on a national stage, but the African continent faces it on the global stage, in that, African and African entrepreneurs, African resources, we cannot actually have the bargaining power or seem to get the right to actually use our own resources and develop ourselves to become better. There is always that system that has been put in place to make sure that Africa stays poor, Africa stays primitive, and Africa stays corrupt. Africa stays, in chaos, and it will never stand on her feet. The same thing that is happening on a national level back to black Americans is the same thing that Africans are facing. It just has a different image and has a different name. So we need to sit down and actually build bridges between us, black folks in the Caribbean, black folks in the United States, black folks on the African continent, in Europe, and all over the world. And we need to sit down and try to reason together. The problem is that there are systems that have been put in place to make sure that we stay divided, we stay disconnected, and we never actually unite to gain any real power. It is high time we make sure that that becomes a thing of the past. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about today's episode? I'm your presenter, Profess. If you're new, kindly consider subscribing. Whether you are Black American or African American, or African immigrant, or Black person from the African continent, or Jamaicans in the Caribbean and other Black folks in the Caribbean, let me know what you think and what's your opinion in the comments below. Subscribe if you're new, hit that like button, and see you on the next episode.